But let's talk about holiday lets. I think this is one of the subjects that I wanted to talk about for a long, long time. And I haven't done so because I wanted to see what was going to go on with this industry. And it looks as though it's one of those industries. I'm going to move this around. Airbnb and Booking.com are the usual places for holiday lets and service accommodation, whereby you can advertise your property on these two biggest media, I would say, and rent your property out for a night, or a weekend, or a period of 1-2 weeks. Now, you'll notice this little graph on the right-hand side is the number of guests staying with Airbnb hosts during the summer. And you can see the meteoric rise of the number of people that are booking through Airbnb to stay in a property that's been listed on their website. That's a huge amount of growth. Where does that look like in 16, 17, 18, etc.? Well, that is an older graph, but it was showing the growth. That growth is still going on as far as I'm concerned. So we're not going to see any shortage right now. Now, there is competition out there with any industry when it's sexy, when it's cool, when people are starting to educate it through the many educators that are out there. Then, of course, there will be a period of saturation. And then, as usual, any market will go through maturity. And the ones that are strongest, the one that are providing the very best products and service will still be there to make the money. And the other ones that are amateurs making a bit of a hash of it, they will go out of business very, very quickly indeed. But that is typically Airbnb, Booking.com, great rise in the market conditions. And what I wanted to do was talk about what holiday lets. I want to move my screen down here for a second. I wanted to just give you a dynamic here, which is something for you to consider, which is single lets has less time to manage. And I'm going to focus on the types of property strategy and then the time of management of profits. And a single let is a property, maybe a 2, 3, 4 bedroom house or flat, and you have one person or a family that's renting the property. The time to manage is very, very small, really, because if you've got a good letting agent, you shouldn't really hear too much from that family or the tenant in question. Now, the profit, when you compare it to other strategies, isn't so high. So when I was doing single let properties, I was lucky to get between 6 and 8% return investment. Woohoo! How high? But then I started going to HMOs and realized very, very quickly that the time to manage those HMOs is a bit higher. Well, not bit, it was significantly higher in my case than dealing with single let properties. And one thing I did notice on this was if you've got 5 or 6 tenants living in a property, there will be disputes that need to be settled. You've got more void periods because each room, of course, has tenants, which is a 6-month AST. And the longevity of HMOs wasn't as high, for me anyway, than single let property. So I would have a single let property and I could have a tenant in there for 6, 7, 8 years. Now, when it comes to HMOs, then our kind of longest tenant really was about 2 years, I would say, no more than that. So you could tell the longevity really isn't there, and you've got then this turnaround. So it's a hard work really, and that's why we stopped doing HMOs, if I'm honest. And then holiday lets is a step further, whereby you have got potential clients coming in on an evening or a weekend or 7 days. And of course, out of that, you've then got to do the booking in, the booking out. You've got to take the payments. You've got the cleaners to go in. You've got quick maintenance work to be done on that property. So again, if you think about maintenance level, you need a lot of time to manage holiday lets. Of course, if you have agents in any of these cases, then they will charge you appropriately for the amount of time that they put into your properties. However, that said, you'll notice that the profits for single lets isn't as high. It's probably the lowest out of the 3 strategies that we talk about. HMOs is certainly more profitable than single lets. And then the holiday lets, if you have a holiday let, it's fully occupied, then that will be the highest generating profit. And we have clients of course, I'm not going to say who they are, but we do have clients that are doing very, very well indeed. And in fact, some of the clients are getting rent of around about £2,000 in London for one of their properties. And it turns out not that it's ever going to happen. Well, maybe it can, but it's unlikely that that property is going to be rented all month long. But imagine if it was, I mean, you're talking nearly £10,000 for one property. I mean, that's significant. So holiday lets, yes, more profit and more time to get involved in that property. And it's all about systemization, ladies and gentlemen. With any kind of piece of work that's got a lot of processes, then it's all about process re-engineering, systemization, and trying to cut down the noise level. So holiday let service accommodation. This is the criteria that HMRC, I'm just going to move my screen up now. I can move that up to the top, hopefully. There we go. I'm just going to move it up here so you can see me there. Here we go. So holiday let service accommodation must be available for letting for 210 days a year. So it must be available. This is HMRC's criteria, by the way. So the property must be available to let for 210 days a year. And you'll notice the next bullet point says commercially, it needs to be let for at least 105 days per year for it to be considered to be a holiday let. Now, you can't count the days that you're in that property as part of the 105. If you've got friends and family staying in your holiday let for free, then that's not commercially let out. So you do need to consider that when you've got a holiday let. Will it be classed as a holiday let, as in it's available for 210 days and it's going to be let out for 105 days, then only then will it be considered to be a genuine holiday let or service accommodation. And the reason why I'm highlighting that now is because there are a lot of people that aren't aware of these rules, and they think that Section 24 does not affect them because, as I said earlier, Section 24 mortgage interest relief cap does not affect holiday let service accommodation because it's not a residential property in the eyes of HMRC. How long that will stay that way, I do not know, but right now it is not going to affect holiday let service accommodation. But you must meet these conditions for it to be considered a holiday let. And most people will naturally say, well, how does HMRC know? Well, the answer is they don't without investigation. But what they will be able to do is, well, say, well, give me the receipts for that property so that we can validate the number of days that you let the property out. So that's the letting out condition. How do they police the availability? Well, that's more difficult, but they can look at your listing on Airbnb and booking.com or wherever you choose to advertise it and see, was it made available? And that's the kind of way that they'll check. Now, my viewpoint is to keep transparency and open system whereby you can log the availability and the number of days it's been let out on a system so that you can give a report to HMRC and it's fully auditable.